The consumer is in for a rude awakening in 2024 as we see big changes, big shifts that are occurring. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. I'm not only going to give you some opinions, I'm actually going to look at this in depth. I'm going to show you leading economic indicators. I'm going to give you data that explains it all, and no wasting time. Let's begin. One of the messages for 2024, let's not waste our time. We don't have enough. Okay, these are leading economic indicators. Just think of it like a bunch of things squeezed together to give us an idea of where the direction is right now. There are 2 points you got to know about this is that we are showing right now. I'll show you this chart, this one as well, and this, which all that means, all you need to take from that is that number one, it is likely to show that we are currently in a recession. Number two is that we've likely bottomed out and we are actually on an upward trajectory. That doesn't mean it can't go the other direction, but that's as of today. So let's say as of the end of 2023, in fact, that's where it is. Now, if there is some sort of major event, if banks start to fail, if we start to encounter something else, this war expansion, anything, that could change it. But this is based on the current trajectory. Why? Because the financial world dictates what happens. And at this time, well, even though we haven't seen rate cuts, we haven't seen any of that come out of the US or many major economies, that's what the belief is. And so the markets, the financial system, lending, business operations, they go in advance of it, hoping that it will go that way. It can reverse rather quickly. So that's where we lead this off. And I want to show you something. More big companies are set to collapse in 2024. That's me reading the data itself, looking at this. More big firms likely to go bust next year amid the double whammy of high borrowing costs and pressure on the consumer budgets. I told you the consumer was feeling it. And of course, we know that it is the case. We're looking at this on many different levels. Even, when you have a problem, when the Walmart CEO is saying, we got an issue right now with the consumer, because that's where people would go to get budget products. When they don't have enough to go around, they're going to be shopping more at Walmart. Even the dollar stores, they're saying the same thing. What are corporations doing as a result of this? The smart ones are actually going to the dollar stores and saying, what is your criteria? Okay, well, we don't sell anything above $2, $3, $4, whatever it is. Okay, we're going to put that much of a quantity in a box, and will you buy, $1 million worth every month, something like this? Yes. Okay, we'll produce that for you. And so they start producing products specifically for these dollar stores. And the dollar store is happy. They get a product that's geared towards them that the shopper likes. But we didn't do that, a few years ago, a handful of years ago. Now things are changing, especially since 2020. And we have to understand that, yes, in fact, 2020 did change everything. Consumer habits being one of those, okay? So, of course, we will have these companies that cannot stand on their own 2 feet anymore. They're laying people off. As we see here, we can look at the struggle that these companies are feeling. They're closing down locations. They are consolidating. Mergers and acquisitions are taking place. Anytime you go through this part of the cycle, which is increasing interest rates, you do have this. This is normal. However, how far it goes remains to be seen. 2024 is the big one, okay? Revenge spending drives ballooning U.S. credit card balances. Unbelievable how much people are willing to spend. But it seems like an insatiable appetite, because no matter what, those credit cards keep going up and up and up. Americans have spent down their savings and racked up debt as the economy hurls along, burns along. But looking at this, it's basically saying that the consumer, how long could it actually keep going? And you could see they continue to splurge in 2023, whether it's Taylor Swift or other things. I've heard that these Taylor Swift tickets can be literally thousands of dollars to go see them. I'm assuming that's based on scalper prices, but knowing that, you can see the examples of people willing to spend. So they are willing to spend, but as Walmart CEO says, they're being choiceful. Credit card balances increased by 4.7%. One $1.08 trillion. That's just credit cards. That doesn't factor in everything else. And you see, as they say, highest on record, over 20% interest. The balances that people carry, because yeah, you can use your credit card, you can rack up those points and you pay it off before the end of the month, you're good. But a lot of people, in fact, are carrying a balance of, I've seen examples of $6,000 to $10,000. And at 20%, that likely won't get paid off. We also see the examples of people from one year into the next, Christmas time, they take on that debt and they literally still have the debt. Imagine you bought a gift for somebody and a year later, they are still paying that off. Not healthy at all. It shows you that the economy is not healthy. Just because they're willing to spend doesn't make it healthy. Okay, there's a difference there. All right. As rates are cut in 2024, if rates are cut, that's the expectation, that could change things, that could ease the burden and the pain on businesses as well as the consumer itself. Student loan borrowers stage a massive student debt strike. Student loan payments are due, but tens of millions of borrowers are refusing or unable to pay. Tens of millions. This is huge, and this is spreading through social media. Faced with the impossible choice of feeding their kids, keeping a roof over their head, or throwing an average of $400 a month into the Department of Education incinerator, borrowers are rightly choosing to keep themselves and their families financially afloat. That's right. 22 million borrowers had payments due in October, but only 13 million settled their bills. 40% of borrowers failed to make payments. Do you see this? Do you understand this? Millions upon millions of people are not paying those student loans. Now, what you can take from that is maybe they think, well, number one, there's too much debt, they can't pay it back. Number two is the fact that they see some of that debt being wiped out. They're saying, hey, the administration's willing to wipe it out. Why am I going to pay it? Maybe my debt will be wiped out next. Maybe I'll classify as part of the criteria that's allowing them to wipe it off. And so why would I do that? So they're going on strike. They're sitting back and they're saying, I'm going to wait it out. Now, I don't know if that's necessarily a good idea because they might have to pay that back and it could hurt them long term. But that's what they're doing. What do you think is going to be the result of this? Not paying back that student debt, not paying back their debts and hoping for the best. I see it right now, not just with the student debt, but going on and on into other avenues with the credit card debt, the buy now, pay later. People are up to their throats and beyond. They're drowning in debt. And at the highest level ever, you know that there is a crisis that is on right now. You don't have to call it a recession because it is a crisis that is happening. Look at the statistics, okay? Key student loan statistics. There were 43 million Americans holding federal student loan debt, average balance of $38,000 per borrower. So you've got people. And by the way, $1.7 trillion worth of student debt in total. But the average person has nearly 40 grand in student debt. They have to pay that back as of October. That was, 3 years put on hold. They have to pay it back. And many of them, a large percentage, 40% of the borrowers said, no, they're not going to pay it back. So there's a big crisis here. And like I said, it could be because they're saying, I don't want to. And others might say, well, I literally can't because I can't afford my bills. So this is a problem that will not be resolved. And so the two options are very simple. The government can wipe it all out or most of it out or significantly reduce that. Or what if they were to simply go into some sort of default, they start taking from them, and we start to enter into something we've never seen before, which is literally millions and millions of these people starting to have to foreclose on their homes. They're starting to default on their credit cards, and one by one, all the dominoes start to fall. When that occurs, what is the next step? What would happen if you start to see that cascade, the dominoes? What would you anticipate? We could talk about that more, but I'll tell you now, not pretty. Inflation's impact on car ownership. All you need to know from this is broken down into these different levels. Over these past couple years, just basically since 2020, everything surrounding cars has gone up. The debt has gone up, no question. The amount people pay per payment has gone up. The overall prices of the vehicles have gone up. Nothing is reasonable, and nothing is, in this realm of that whole 3% inflation nonsense. Not even close. Not even close. That's the world we live in today. Energy bill price hike takes effect as record numbers struggle with debt. This is in the UK. And once again, people are burdened with the basics. Yeah, if Louis Vuitton wants to charge more for their bag or whatever it is, well then, that's for people to pay. People can afford that, that's fine. That's a luxury item. But what about on your energy? What about on your food? What about on the essentials? Well, today, more than ever before, those are going up and people can't stand it. Their backs are being broken. Yeah, did they need to go to the Taylor Swift concert? No, but hopefully those are people with disposable income and not those who are heavily in debt. All right, but unfortunately, sometimes it's not the way it goes. This is just talking about the food index, the fact that it has come down from its peak. Great news, positive news. The only problem is it doesn't translate into the stores. You go to the grocery store, you haven't seen a 10% decline in prices. Well, maybe you have. You let me know in the comments. Here's the question. Let's take a poll from the audience. Did you experience a 10% decline or even a 5% decline in prices at your grocery store? Yes or no? Please let me know. Okay? So if we have, let's do it. You stayed into the end. We'll have that discussion of what happens in the circumstance where you have this cascade, this snowball effect. What happens to people? Well, they start to fail. A recession, maybe officially or not, doesn't matter. That occurs. But you do have a widespread crisis. And inevitably, the result of this is some sort of intervention. That intervention could be directly from the government in the form of stimulus. It could be wherever, usually it's targeted at first. During the financial crisis, you had measures going towards real estate, but also the car companies, cash for clunkers. They had the TARP bailout, these things. Okay. So that kind of took place. At the same time, the other type is the central bank, the Federal Reserve, did quantitative easing and all that. So we have these multiple things happening at any given time. That creates inflation. And what we know from every previous cycle is that they will, in fact, do more than they did last time. So expect that the inflation that they create will be more than the last time. How do you feel about 2020 prices up until 2023 into 2024? Was that reasonable? Was that okay with you? Well, what if, and this is what I tell my Finance Friday people, and even on the Sunday session, when I get face-to-face with these people, we're in a small group, I can be 100% honest, I don't need to worry about algorithms and all that. I tell them, the inflation that we experienced from 2020 into 2023, imagine we get that again. That's the base case scenario. That's not the extreme. The extreme scenario is like 3 to 4x that. So imagine that being the base case. What would you do? What are the actions you take? And what are you going to do now? We are at the beginning of 2024. Let's not wait until the beginning of 2025 before we go back and realize, hey, everything's more expensive than it was before. I should have done A, B, and C. No, you got to take action today, right now. Don't waste any time. So in 2020, this circumstance created less consumer choices, and they're explaining in Wall Street Journal why it won't come back. Retailers and suppliers say it didn't pay to offer products for everyone, and customers didn't care that much when they stopped. So what's happening here? It's basically the companies are thinning out their product lines. and they're going towards, you know what, that one didn't perform so well, so let's knock it off. Just like the stores, they're closing more stores that are not performing well. Oh, we have too much theft at that store? Forget it. Close the store down. Everything is being thinned down, less and less and less. And ultimately, what I've got here is basically to say that this is the new era of less choice, higher prices, and less quality. Shrinkflation, and how basically I just covered it recently, how they will go through and they water down the products, like whatever you want to call that. You can broadly say that that's shrinkflation or even inflation in a sense. That's going on. Expect that. Take the actions as a result of it. The people that I have in my inner circle right here, which is on the Finance Fridays, where we discuss the matters at hand related to the economy, related to what's going on in the markets, related to, investments. That's on Friday. And on Sunday session, we talk about building an online business. Why? Because we want currency basically in every way. We want the diversification coming through our currencies. We want diversification coming through our geographical region because, number one, we want to be able to sell to multiple geographies, but we also want that ability to be mobile to other geographies. That's really the key points here, okay? I cannot let an infinite amount of people in there. There's a limitation on, if there's too many people, it won't be good. So I'm not going to continue to allow people forever. We do have a lot of inquiries recently. People are deciding, should I not? That's totally up to you. Go to the link in the description, right at the top there. You click it. It will, show you everything that's there, all the details. It's no contract. It's up to you to decide. I hope that you will join me. If you found this video informative, hit that thumbs up button. When you do, you're supporting me. I want to thank you for that. And as always, come back tomorrow because I got some good stuff for you. I'll see you then. Take care.